training. We are recording this session, and it will be available on our COVID-19 staff faculty return to campus page. So we will be providing that along with the slides. And Leif, if you can go ahead and hit record if you haven't already. I'm sure you have. So welcome everybody. We'll go over a couple of just kind of housekeeping pieces, and then we'll get right to the training. But I do want you to know that today's training has been a team process. We've had input from all over campus helping us out with this. It's a kind of a work in progress. We're doing the best that we can to put together the information that you'll need to have a successful return to campus. We're excited that you're returning to campus, and that you'll have that opportunity. And college is making it as safe and as possible, and providing resources to make your experience a positive one. So today we'll discuss safety, supplies, face coverings, of course, access, equipment. We'll even get into the stress management piece of this, and then some other employee considerations that you may have questions about. Today we have, besides myself, so I'm John Robinson, and I work in people and workplace culture in the employee relations side, and I am part of this return to campus team. Besides myself, it will be Mikkel Birch, who's the director of risk management, will be helping us out today, and then we'll also have Kelsey Pesta, who's a business process analyst. She will jump in and help with some of the questions and to provide additional information. Again, this is a team approach. We have feedback and assistance from people in workplace culture, of course, from purchasing, facilities, the business office, risk management, marketing, health center, and several more. Typically, we during the trainings, we try to have Terry Melhoff present on some of the protocols. She's the clinic manager over the health center. She's not available today, but we do have access to her information and to her slides. And so we appreciate the input that she's given to those. A couple of thoughts on the WebEx, or some considerations. These probably will look very familiar to just about everyone. We ask you to mute your microphone if you can. We will monitor the chat function. So if you have questions during the presentation, we'll try to respond to those. And as we go throughout the presentation, we'll do our best to do that. If you have additional information that can benefit the entire group, we definitely welcome that. Add that to the chat. We appreciate anything you can share. As like I said, this is a kind of a work in progress. We're still learning different things, and we're still creating the new normal. So we do need your assistance as well. So with that, I think we'll jump right into the training, and we will start with Mikkel.
Thank you, John. As John mentioned, this is a returning to campus webinar. And so as we're returning to campus, we want to be first and foremost in our mind. So we're asking everyone to do a daily symptom self-check before you leave your home. Stay home if you're having any symptoms or not feeling well. We've listed the symptoms on the slide, and I'm sure you're quite familiar with this as we've seen them all in media. Sudden change in smell or taste is something that is kind of unusual, but is often one of the first symptoms. So pay attention to whether you tasted that breakfast you ate or the coffee you had in the morning, and just be very self-aware. Maybe check your temperature if you're feeling kind of off, and please do not come to campus if you're having any symptoms or are not feeling well. We're, of course, relying on you to check in with yourself and make sure that you feel well and you are not sick before coming to campus. Moving to the next slide. When you are on campus, we want you to observe physical distancing, maintain that 6-foot distance from others. Also, frequent hand washing. Think about what you're touching, how frequently you're touching things, and wash your hands frequently. There is some hand sanitizer available, but hand washing is always preferable. And use lots of friction when you're doing the hand washing so that you can really get anything off of your hands using that warm soap and water. Warm soap, no, not warm soap, warm water, most often. Avoid touching your face. We're now realizing how frequently we touch our faces, and we need to avoid touching our face and make sure we wash our hands after we have touched our faces. Obviously, cover your coughs and sneezes. Have a tissue, have a handkerchief, have something so that you are able to cover your coughs and sneezes so you're not spreading germs throughout wherever those things go when you cough or sneeze. Do not shake hands. There are other ways to acknowledge people so that you don't have to greet folks with a handshake. That might be a nod of the head. That might be, putting your hand to your heart, acknowledging someone. That might be, hey, we can be British and curtsy. There are all kinds of ways to acknowledge people without having to shake a hand. So be creative and come up with ways to let people know that you're important, that they're important, but not touching their hand. Limit in-person interactions. Even though you're returning to campus, we want you to continue to use the technology that is available. Continue to have WebEx staff meetings. Just because you're back on campus doesn't mean you need to meet together in a room. You can be in your respective areas, your respective offices, social distancing, maybe even on different campuses, and utilize the technology resources we have available so that we can maintain that distancing. A lot of our conference rooms are smaller, and now with the 6-foot distancing, we can only put 2 or 3 people in those conference rooms. So observe that 6-foot distancing and be creative about how you're having your in-person interactions so that you can maintain that distancing. Masks and face shields need to be worn. Able to maintain a 6-foot distance of social distancing. Now, when you're in your office by yourself, not expecting anyone, not necessary to wear a mask. But if you leave your office to go use the restroom, get a drink at the drinking fountain, go for a walk, we want you to wear those masks or face shields. You can't predict when you're going to encounter someone when you're out and about. So wear your mask when there's a possibility that you're going to encounter someone. The masks or face shields are available in the parking services drive-up window at the Gunderson building on the Redwood campus. You'll need your S number in order to get the mask or face shield. If you want to pick up masks or face shields for your colleagues, you can. You just need their S numbers as well. Again, don't touch your face. Wash your hands. If you touch your mask or adjust your mask or take it off for a reason, wash your hands. And masks do not work if they don't cover your nose. Have you seen the people wearing them like down below their noses? That's not effective. You need to cover your mouth and nose. And carefully remove your masks so that you're not contaminating things when you do remove your mask. You may have some germs on the outside of your mask from going around and interacting with folks. So be careful that when you take your mask off, be mindful of where you're setting that mask and how you're touching that mask, and are you washing your hands after you're removing the mask. So be very thoughtful about where this virus can land and how it can come in contact with your hands. It needs to get into your body. So usually the most common way is through your nose or mouth or eyes, a mucous membrane that it's going to get in there. So be mindful about when you're touching that and where you're touching things and washing those hands.
Hey, Mikkel, I'm going to jump in and just provide the updated guidelines that we have for the college regarding masks. I'm just going to read this. As long as state guidelines suggest face coverings be worn in public places, the college will require face coverings for all students, faculty, and staff in common indoor areas, including classrooms and when maintaining a 6-foot distance is not possible. So that's, we've basically been practicing kind of the requirement for masks and sending that messaging out that we want all employees, faculty and staff to wear masks when possible. And the colleges and cabinet is looking at making that basically a mandatory requirement for students as well. There will be some additional messaging and communication on how to interact with students who either do not have a mask or who are refusing to wear one. We'll have additional communication on that. All right, having some mic issues there. Sounded like a Pink Floyd album. Apologize. So there will be additional trainings on how to approach somebody that's not wearing a mask, who to contact, and then how to get that the person a mask. We'll have disposable masks at the ready in as many areas as needed.
Thanks, John. And just because someone isn't wearing a mask doesn't necessarily mean they're intentionally trying to kill us, right? They may have forgotten. So let's all be really supportive in our community and just help each other out. This mask wearing thing and this distancing thing is new to all of us, and we are not used to it, and it's not a habit yet. So let's support everybody and help everybody out by, saying, hey, did you forget your mask? Or, how can we help you get a mask? Or remember the distancing, because it's hard to remember, especially that distancing, because we're not used to talking to people that are 6 feet away. We're a closer society. And so these things are going to take time to become habits. And so support everybody in creating these habits. Our wonderful folks in marketing have created some signage. Here you see our favorite one about wearing a mask. So you can see that the lowest possibility of transmission is if both the carrier and the healthy person are wearing masks. And based on the science is why we're requiring everyone to wear masks when they're on campus and interacting with folks. So please wear your mask to protect yourself and others from the transmission of this virus. You might see this very graphic posted around campus. Again, the folks in marketing and facilities have done a wonderful job not only developing the infographics and information for folks, but also distributing them and placing them at entrances to our buildings and in other places where we can help remind everybody that we need to wear those masks and observe the distancing and wash the hands and all of those things.
And I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit, but these printable signs are available on our staff faculty return to campus page. We'll add that link in. That has a lot of resources. I failed to mention that, but there's a lot of resources, including a return to campus guide for employees, return to campus guide for departments. The slides, the WebEx will be there as well, but then also a section about section for printable signs. You probably, when you return, or if you've already returned, you probably know this signage, but if there's an area that maybe needs something, you can go to that page and print it out, post it up. If you can, use the painter's tape so we're not damaging any walls. And then you can also make signage requests through our Fix-It group by sending them a Fix-It ticket. Okay, thank you.
Kelsey has posted a link in the chat box, so if everybody wants to look at that link, you can find the link to the printable signs. Next, we're going to talk about sanitizing supplies. The college will provide cleaning and sanitizing supplies for your department, Employees should not use their purchasing card to purchase sanitizing supplies. Those supplies are in high demand and it's very challenging for us to source those. And so we're utilizing our bulk buying power to be able to get those supplies. If you're ordering smaller quantities, number one, they're often going unfulfilled, and number two, they're making it harder for us to buy in bulk. So we want you to avoid using or not use your purchase card to purchase sanitizing supplies and request what you need through Fix-It. Follow the purchasing guidelines provided in the Return to Work Department guidance document that is also available on the COVID-19 website. And look for those hand sanitizing stations that are available at convenient locations on all campuses, most commonly by the entrances to the buildings. I hope you've seen them. They're kind of like those distribution points for hand sanitizer, and those are available as well. If you see one of those that is out of sanitizer, just put in a Fix-It and the facilities folks will respond and get that refilled. They're monitoring those regularly, so I'd be surprised if something went without or ran out of sanitizer, but if you do see something, utilize Fix-It. Fix-It is a wonderful resource, and we'll be making many references to Fix-It throughout our presentation and in the future as we're going through how to maintain a safe campus with this virus and COVID-19 considerations. Access and equipment protocols. Building access. Now, if you're being asked to return to campus, make sure you can get where you need to go. A lot of our buildings have reopened. There may still be some buildings or areas that are still closed. And so if you're going to an area that hasn't reopened, you're going to need to make sure you have key access to get where you need to go. Check our current building hours on the COVID-19 website that will let you know what buildings are open and available to you, open to the public, and what buildings might still have some restricted access. If there are shared workstations in your area, sanitize those workstations after each use and between users so that we can make sure that every person that comes to the workstation is utilizing a clean space. In areas where you have shared supplies that you use, consider removing those supplies or sanitizing them after each use. These are things like copiers or staplers or printers or telephones or things that you use in common in your work group. Think about sanitizing those and sanitizing shared surfaces after each use. If there is a break room or a conference room or a place that you share, copy assembly or something like that, think about sanitizing those after each use and maybe establishing a protocol in your area for sanitizing those high use surfaces. Who's going to sanitize that stapler every so often? Is your protocol going to be after you touch it, sanitize it, or are you going to come through maybe once a day or twice a day and have one person sanitize that? In my area, we've identified all of the high touch surfaces and we've assigned everybody a day. I have to sanitize those surfaces on Tuesdays. Find something that works for your work group and think about those high touch surfaces, what people are going to be touching, and how you can make a plan to keep those areas sanitized and safe. When you're thinking about breaks and lunches, make sure you stagger those to allow the physical distancing. We don't want employees congregating in break spaces for their lunch at the same time. You might want to think about taking that lunch outside and enjoying the UV light that kills the virus and enjoying the nice weather outside, getting some vitamin D from the sun, getting some fresh air. You might want to go outside and have your lunch, or go to a place that is not with other people and you can maintain that distancing. Again, clean your high touch surfaces regularly, and do remember that if you have disposable masks or gloves, they are not recyclable. If you place them in the recycling container, that will contaminate the entire batch and nothing will be able to be recycled. So please place disposable masks and gloves in the trash container so that they can be properly handled and won't contaminate the recyclables. When you're using the water fountain, we'd like you to avoid drinking from the fountain and utilize the clean catch method using a container to catch the water so that you won't have to have any of the container surface coming in contact with the drinking fountain. Facilities has been working to replace most of the drinking fountains with bottle fillers so that you won't have to touch the fountain to get your water. But if you don't have access to one of those fountains, make sure you wash your hands after you touch the drinking fountain, and make sure you avoid contaminating your water container by touching a surface on the drinking fountain. Facilities will be cleaning these regularly, but you're going to also want to be careful when utilizing them. Now we'll go to John.
Okay, thanks, Mikkel. Appreciate it. Appreciate that great information. We're going to switch gears for just a couple minutes here and talk about emotional well-being, because sometimes that's forgotten about when we are concerned with other things, like all of the changes that are happening right now. So we want to make sure you understand some of the support that you have available to you as employees at the college. And the first one is the Employee Assistance Program. It's a program, it's a benefit for typically for full-timers. It's a paid benefit for full-timers, but they will also accept part-time employees. They're not going to turn anyone away that's a college employee in need. And so they offer face-to-face counseling sessions for each specific issue. And typically you can get up to 4 sessions per issue. So in with a variety of different topics, including work, challenging things at work, challenging things at home, work-life balance, financial concerns, general stress, general anxiety, legal issues. I mean, they have just a lot of resources through the EAP. So we want you to look at those opportunities through that program and utilize their services. They've been very helpful. And we also have the Center for Health and Counseling, which you may be aware that besides obviously supporting our students, they also support our staff and faculty. So employees can take advantage of those services through the Health and Counseling Center and get some support there as well. And they've been great since, well, they've been great for a long time, but they've really helped a lot of people out since March. Some other, other opportunities for and now full-time and part-time employees, staff, faculty, everyone in between is the employee wellness benefit and the programs. One that's been successful in these times is the stress management program. There's also the One Small Change, which can be done remotely. And there's other programs that you can explore on the wellness page. And there's drop-in yoga, I believe they're doing over WebEx, and just a myriad of different programs that have been very helpful for employees and going through these challenging times. That's emotional well-being. Make sure you're taking care of yourself to the extent possible. Some other employee considerations to think about: high-risk employees or employees who are living with high-risk individuals may be able to continue to telework. It depends on your supervisor's determination, as well as your department and your leadership is their determination on if they need employees back on campus or not. So really, it's dependent on what's going on in your specific area and what kind of needs there are. Some areas have students back on campus, and they require employees to help with the student needs. Some students are back actually in the classroom in different areas, including health sciences. They've so the ability to continue teleworking is not always there. So talk with your supervisor about that option if you're high risk, and some other opportunities for you if you are high risk, or if you are in the need for to utilize emergency pay or the new FFCRA leave, which is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Not a very catchy name, but it is what it is. If you're in need of that leave or emergency pay because you are sick with COVID-19 symptoms, or you have limitations on childcare because of the COVID-19 closings, or you're living with someone who is high risk, you may need to apply for emergency pay. And from starting back on June 1st, from that point forward, we require an application. So in order to get emergency pay or the FFCRA leave, employees are required to fill out the application that is available on the it's available in a couple of spots. It's on the staff faculty link that Kelsey added to the chat. There's an emergency pay section there. That will take you to the emergency pay section or web page on the HR website. So, and you'll see instructions for the application and then also additional information. There is a push to phase out emergency pay to some extent, but we also realize that in some cases it may be necessary. But we are requiring the application process, and part of that application is, in most cases, again, unless somebody is sick, will require an application to the work sharing program. So the work sharing program is new to the college. It's opportunity for employees who can't fill their availability with enough work in their own area, and that could be for a number of different reasons. But it could be your area is perhaps not returning to campus immediately, and there's not enough telework to do, so there's extra hours that you have throughout the week. So that's a perfect opportunity for the work sharing program. Work sharing program, the team will match the employee up with another department in need. Departments are in need of different tasks that can be done remotely, sometimes on campus, but we do require the work sharing program in most cases before emergency pay will be approved. And one more point on that, employees must reapply every pay period for the emergency pay. Again, we're trying to phase that out. We want supervisors to work with employees who are thinking they are in need of the emergency pay to see if there are other options available in their area. And then again, utilize work sharing. But in some cases, we may have to have employees utilize emergency pay, and it is available. This last consideration is kind of a repeat of previous information you may have seen in SLCC today or through the college's messaging. But if you test positive for COVID-19, we want you to complete the self-reporting form that's available on the COVID-19 page. There's a button that you can just click, self-reporting. It's confidential. It goes for an employee, it goes directly to Jill 2, who is our leave and ADA coordinator. We also ask that you submit the self-reporting test if you are being tested and are awaiting the results. We like to track that as well if we get that information. You can also contact Jill to make sure she's received the self-reporting form. And then once we get that positive test, we do some contact tracing. We try to find out to the best of our ability who the employee has come in contact with at the college, what areas they frequented, and then we work on contacting those individuals to let them know that there was a positive test, and then to provide some guidance on next steps. And so with that, we do notification to the appropriate people. We're doing so far, we've done a very good job at that. And then I think a big part of it is we also work with our facilities team to clean the area where the employee frequented. Jill will send kind of an official request to have some deep cleaning happen. Give a shout out to Custodial. They're doing an incredible job at keeping all the campuses clean in a remarkable manner. So most areas are probably cleaned before the deep cleaning even happens, but we still will coordinate with facilities to get that extra cleaning done. We kind of went through that pretty quickly. And I think that's good because now we have plenty of time to answer any questions that you might have or any considerations we need to make. So I'm going to turn the time over to you. If you have a question, please share it in the chat function, and then we will try to respond accordingly.
We have a question. Should employees who work in cubicles wear their masks while in their cubicle? And I think that really depends on how your cubicles are situated. If you are within 6 feet, you can't maintain that social distancing, because the guidance we have from the State Department of Health is wear a mask when you can't maintain social distancing. So if your cubicles are structured in such a way where you're closer than that 6 feet distance, then I would say you should wear the mask. If you're more spread apart, then you can probably not wear your mask unless you're interacting with someone in that close proximity. And so it really depends on what the structure and setup is for your individual office.
That's a great question.
Thanks, Laurie, for the question. Okay, we have another one. Is there some sort of process for bathrooms? The bathroom we use is always so crowded, but you don't know that it is until you open the door and slam into someone accidentally. Is there something that can be done to allow people to know to line up distantly before going into the restroom? Thank you, Christy, for the question.
That's a great question, great consideration, and I think we haven't seen that as much the last little while because there aren't any students on campus now. As they start to come back, the bathrooms will get more crowded. Could we leave the doors open? Possibly, probably not to the bathroom, but I think we can take this to the Return to Campus Committee and maybe look at some additional signage requests for restrooms because that's one area I don't know if we've actually covered yet. We've covered water stations, break rooms. We have the floor cleans for the social distancing, different signage about masks and other things, but I don't know if we've covered restrooms. Um, so I think that's something we'll bring up, and that's a great question. I don't have a great answer for you right now.
One thing I've done just in normal times,
Thanks, Christy.
is, I kind of know when the classes in my building are going to be breaking and when there might be more students in using the restrooms. And so I'll try to time my restroom breaks so that I can avoid those big classroom breaks. But we will take the question to the larger task force and see if we can come up with something. We also have questions about elevators and maybe asking for some tape on the ground to show how far to distance outside of the bathroom. These are all good things that we can bring up in our larger committees. We have a question here for John. What is the policy for assisting those who appear ill?
So if you see somebody that appears to be sick, well, first of all, we're going to have some uh, like a conversation guide for specifically about masks, and if like I mentioned, if employees or students aren't wearing masks, how to approach excuse me, how to approach that person. But there will also be some information on this exact question. So an employee or student appears to be sick. Um, Hopefully you are wearing a mask. Hopefully they're wearing a mask. And then you can have that conversation with them. Just it appears that you're showing symptoms. Are you okay? Do you need to reschedule this meeting or whatever the reason is that they're on campus? Have that kind of delicate conversation, but provide the support. If it's an employee, um, they appear to be sick, you can suggest that they contact Jill too. She can talk to them about their options. But I think being supportive and not accusatory, and um, in the last session we did, somebody mentioned allergies, that this is allergy season. I'd never feel like allergy season goes away in Utah, but it does seem like this is allergy season, and some of those symptoms might feel like COVID-19 symptoms. So point out to somebody that, I'm noticing these that you're coughing, or ask if you're okay. And then they might respond, hey, yeah, I'm fine. I'm not sick. I have allergies. And I think what's nice right now is most people are very observant. They're doing their symptom checking before they go anywhere. I think especially college employees, I think we're kind of setting the bar for other institutions around the state, where we're being very cautious about that and staying home if needed. So hopefully on the employee side, we don't see a lot of that, but that's a great question. I think again, there will be more information on the guides as we move forward throughout summer.
There's a question about automatic soap dispensers in the restrooms. We talked to facilities about that, and realistically, you're touching the soap dispensers when your hands are contaminated, and then you wash. So if you're washing correctly, you should not have any contact with the soap dispenser after you've washed your hands. So you touch it when your hands are already contaminated, then you wash. All of that contamination from the soap dispenser and from whatever you did in the restroom, you wash it all off, and then you go on and you don't touch the soap dispenser anymore. So the soap dispensers are really not a concern for a high contact surfaces, because if you're using the soap dispenser, you should be washing anything you pick up from the soap dispenser and in the restroom in general off of your hands at that point. Just make sure you use a lot of friction and you wash your hands long enough. Obviously, it's not acceptable to just run your hands under the water. That does not remove the virus. You need to use soap, you need to use water, and you need to sing that happy birthday song. I think, do you sing it twice? Sing it twice just in case. So, or whatever other song you might like to sing. So make sure you're following proper hand washing protocols, and then you won't have to worry about touching that soap dispenser because again, touch it when you're contaminated and then you wash. So there's not a move to utilize automatic soap dispensers for that reason.
Thanks, Mikkel. I think we missed a comment or question about elevators. And I'm not sure the exact context, but I mean, elevators are cleaned inside and out. To the extent possible, we want people to maintain social distancing in the elevators. That's not always going to be a possibility depending on the size of the elevator. And that's again why we are requiring masks. We want masks, employees and students wearing them in areas like the elevator.
Or you might have to wait for the next one. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I'll also add that we do have those hand sanitizer stations. So after you come off the elevator, there should be a station nearby that you can run your hand under.
Great, thank you. And let's see, I don't think we've answered all the questions about the bathrooms. So maybe some tape on the ground to show how far to distance outside of the bathroom. I think that could be a great solution. It doesn't, let's see, it doesn't really solve the running into people as you go in or out of the bathroom problem. That is true. So that's a suggestion, or that's something we can bring up to the committee. That's probably a facilities question. See if they can look at changing the door systems. Obviously, that's a challenge. It's expensive, but if it's if it's something we need to look into, we need to look into it. So we'll add that to our list. I think in general, we'll focus a little bit more time on bathrooms, even though it sounds kind of funny or whatever. Like that's a legitimate concern, especially as more people come back to campus, more people will be utilizing those. So
Lori has shared that a few bathrooms are a little less crowded, like the fourth floor in the TB building. So, if you need to walk to the TB building and use the fourth floor bathroom because it's less crowded. Now that one's going to be the most crowded one on campus, right? But I think there's areas that are less utilized, and there are times when areas are less utilized, and so maybe we can pay attention to that too. But definitely, we'll talk about all of these bathroom concerns in our meetings. Basement of the TB also has a larger restroom. Thanks, Sherry. So that's one we can social distance in that basement TB bath. It looks like the TB has got some pretty good bathrooms on the fourth floor and in the basement. So go for a walk and use the TB. And again, wear masks when social distancing is not possible. And so when you're out going to use the restroom, you don't know if social distancing is going to be possible because you don't know who you're going to encounter and where they're going to be. So wear your mask, and that will provide the protection based on our infographic when social distancing isn't possible. So when you can be 6 feet apart, not as critical for wearing masks, but when social distancing isn't possible, wear your mask, and in the elevators and in the restrooms and sometimes in the hallways and some of those areas that you're going to go to for, you're going to go get a soda over at the bookstore or something like that. Social distancing may not be possible. Observe social distancing when you can, but if it's not possible, of course, we're going to wear those masks and we're going to protect everybody. So wear your mask when you're using the restroom, when you're going to the drinking fountain, when you're going for a walk, when you're having meetings, when you're going to lunch, those kinds of things where you're not sure about social distancing because spaces are dynamic and people are moving in and out of them all the time.
These are great questions and good ideas. And we, like I said, we will bring this to the committee and we'll see if the college needs to make some adjustments and if that's, and what possibilities are out there. So thank you for providing this feedback. Let's see.
And hopefully with the mask requirement that we're trying to share throughout these seminars and others, you won't run into people who aren't wearing the masks. But remember, if someone isn't wearing a mask, it's probably just an oversight, and we need to support everyone and help them remember that this is what we need to do now. It's not a habit for us to interact with people 6 feet apart. It's not a habit for us to wear those masks yet. And so support everyone and help them remember that, and help them remember in a kind way that we're wearing masks now and we're observing that social distancing and we're trying to keep everybody safe. Kelsey has shared another link in the chat about additional guides that are available on the website. There's lots of information available on the website, the web team, and a lot of people have contributed a lot of resources to the COVID-19 website. So please go familiarize yourself with the resources there because they're really, really helpful, and you'll get a lot more information there as well. Have questions about, we may go to mandatory masks even for guests walking in. Do we have masks available to offer them? I think John mentioned that we're working on getting those masks distributed so that we will have them available. Yes, John?
That is correct. Kelsey, do you have any updates on the disposable masks and the distribution of those?
Yep. We have quantities available now for summer. So those are located in parking services. I would speak with a supervisor or someone over the department so that way we can coordinate just to make sure that we can not run out of supplies, since we want to make sure to track them. And then in fall, we will reach out again with additional information. So for summer semester, we have it through the parking services drive-through. But you would reach out to fixit at slcc.edu prior, so that way we can look at the request and make sure that we have the information that we need to pass it out. Hopefully that was clear. That was a little long-winded.
No, that was great. It was clear to me. Let us know if we need to spend more time on that. Let's see, a couple more questions. Let's see, will there be hand sanitizer in most hallways for students? Again, the custodial and facilities group have added additional stations for hand sanitizer. It's one of those items that's just really hard to come by to the point where the actual sanitizing solution is being made by distilleries that typically make vodka or some other alcohol. They're making hand sanitizer. We have been able to procure enough hand sanitizer for the stations that we currently have, and additional stations will continue to be added as they come available.
I see a question in the chat. If we wear a shield, do we also have to wear a mask? The nice thing about the shields is you can wear a mask in conjunction with a shield, but you don't necessarily have to. You want to make sure you have that barrier over your face and mouth, your face and nose, so that you can avoid sharing your respiratory droplets with anyone else. And so if you have a barrier that will prevent those respiratory droplets from leaving too far away from your body, then that is adequate. Some people do like the shields because they're not directly touching your face. Some people also like the shields because they prevent you from touching your face. They also cover your eyes, provide some eye protection if you're concerned about that. They also allow for your face to be visible for folks who lip read or use sign language or those kinds of things. So the face shields do provide some different advantages and some different features, but they do not have to be, you don't have to wear a mask and a shield unless of course you prefer, and that is completely fine too. The question is, fix it for disposable masks. That is correct. Michelle, her question was skipped. And here it is. Has anyone come up with a plan for campuses like South City, where we have a large amount of people coming onto campus who are not students? How do we enforce mask wearing for people who aren't students and maybe refuse or don't have masks? Good question. I'm going to ask John to answer that one.
Yeah, I actually think, Mikkel, I think you answered it to some extent already. We can go into it a little bit further. It will be similar to the conversations we'll have with, with students or possibly with other employees about asking the patrons or the parents or whomever's coming on campus to utilize masks. There will be plenty of signage that should be, hopefully it's not overlooked, but it should be in prominent places. So anybody coming on campus at South or any of our campuses should know that they have to wear a mask, and that we will have disposable masks available in kind of the prominent areas on each campus, the information desks and those types of areas.
I think that might answer Angela's question about mask availability for campuses other than Redwood. Yes, all campuses can request masks for guests or visitors through Fixit. I believe there may be some already available at other campuses through the various information desks. If you need some, just contact Fixit and they can set them aside for you. Most of the supplies are being distributed through the parking drive-up window at Gunderson on Redwood Facility Services building. So you might have to come to Redwood to get those supplies, but they're available by request through Fixit. And Annette tells us that High West is making hand sanitizer there in Park City. That's another one of our local distilleries that are pitching in to get us the supplies we need. Thanks. Can supplies be delivered through campus mail? Kelsey, can you help us with that one?
Yep. Right now at this time, we are not delivering through campus mail. Our facilities staff is working hard to make sure that we're managing the inventory going in and out, as well as the custodial staff with cleaning. So at this time, everything will be through parking services on the Redwood campus.
I think we have caught all of the questions. If we've missed your question, please type it again into the chat because we've for some reason missed it. And we want to make sure we address all of your questions, as many as possible as time allows, and we've still got some time left. So if you have questions, please type it into the chat.
I just want to say just quickly that we do appreciate all the feedback and the questions, the responses, and again, this helps us shape the messaging and the next kind of phase that we're moving into. Make sure we have enough resources and we adapt to the needs. So again, I just appreciate it. This is helpful. We will continue to improve upon the processes we have and provide additional support. So look back to the return to work page that Kelsey provided the link to for additional updates and additional support and information as the weeks go by in the summer.
We have a question from Kathy. How much spread comes to the air ducts? She's thinking of the Diamond Princess. Now, while I I'm not sure that the CDC has released information about exactly, scientifically what comes through the air ducts and how that all works. I have done some reading about that, and I have spoken with Bob Askerland, our director of facilities, about the air duct concern. And the information that I've been able to gather is that if you change your filters regularly and you have an adequate amount of outside air coming through those air ducts, that the risk is limited, and it's unlikely that there is spread going through there. And so in my consultation with Bob Askerland, he has assured me that they have protocol for regular changing of all of those filters, and that we have the highest concentration of outside air being mixed with the treated air, the air that is cooled or heated, to make sure we're maintaining the safest environment as is possible. I will continue to study that topic because it is of interest to me as the risk manager, and make sure that we are maintaining the most up-to-date protocols for managing our air handling. We have a comment about UVC lights in the filter area works well too. I'm not sure about whether we have those lights, but if we do, I'm sure we're using them. Any more questions?
Okay, well, we appreciate everyone. Appreciate your service to the college, that you're returning to campus. It'd be nice to see everyone's faces again, and seeing that activity back on campus. So we appreciate you. And thanks for participating today. And
one more question, John, from
okay.
Victoria Harding. Are the guidelines for now until summer, or do we have different plans for fall? That's a great question. John, I'll let you address that.
Okay, sorry to cut you off, Mikkel. That is a good question. There will be updated protocols for and guidance for fall. Fall will look quite a bit different than the summer does. There will be additional resources, additional like conversation guides, specifically for faculty, but also for other areas where they will be doing the face-to-face appointments with students. So a lot of the guidelines and the principles that we've talked about today will remain in place, but there will be additional information as we get ready and start to prepare for fall. Great question. Okay, with that, we will stop the recording, and you all have 2 minutes to go do whatever you want